Going to LCBC did wonderful things in my personal acceptance. However, it made me very dependent. And if you Americans really got it, seriously, if my brothers and sisters in the American culture really got it, you'd be upset. Very upset. It's very upsetting once you start realizing a lot of the truths to the way we've been taught and the way commercial television is ran and commercial radio, mainstream music, and all that other stuff. If I shared with you my detailed perspective on life's journey, I guarantee you would be upset. Listen, we shouldn't be listening to people that were on the radio in 1990, knowing there's people like me who really know how to give birth naturally to songs. This would be my generation. They were my generation back when I was 15 years old. Get off my radio. Make room for other people, okay? And why are we still watching Jerry Springer today? Get off my television set. There's other talk show hosts out there. We don't need to look at the same people day in and day out for 30, 40 years. It's time to retire. Why don't you help somebody else do shit? Stop being so selfish and self-centered with your life. Oh, people fall into agreement with people who are there. They begin to think that there's something special and we are not. They have the answers, right, Joyce Myers? You got the answers. That's why you're on television. I got the answers, and I'm a nobody to the rest of the world. And I had to go through a lot of hell to get those answers. If I would have been taught intelligently in school, I'm the kind of person who would be helping a lot of people. Probably in the music industry. Why? Because I'm a caring person by nature. If you hear this message, stop supporting people that are in commercial mainstream for the last 20 years plus. Okay? Start being aware that there are other people that these people are feeding off of to keep their careers alive. How are these people that are X age and been around and they're busy working, by the way, how in the world could they be living a different life, a totally different life and connecting with the masses? You know who connects with the masses? People like me who have gone through a lot of hell. That's who connects. And if you listen to my albums, you will see I have many hit songs. Just because they're not on the radio or in your television set don't mean that they're not hits. They're major hits. People would love them. But we're taught as a society that unless it comes through the radio or on television set, it isn't nothing. And I'm sick of seeing the same people on the television, CMT. What's up with Brad Paisley and Tim McGraw and frickin' Faith Hill and all this shit? Why are they special? Could they do any of what they do if they had to do it by themselves for themselves? I have a history where I did it. And I have met a lot of people who have been taken over by people, and I'm not saying them, by people in the music industry. It's an assembly line process, and they have their front people. And I gotta be honest, I personally am sick of seeing the front people when I know I got talent. It's time to make room for God's chosen children. Stop supporting mainstream. If they've been around for 30 years, and it took them that long to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's something wrong with them anyway, okay? Do you ever realize that? Well, I was also talking about a lot of the things. Stephen wanted to know what it is that I watch, who it is that I like. Well, they like to rub stuff in your face. And the bottom line is, I'm here to tell you that I have evidence. And I can lay down my songs of the last 2, 3, 4 albums that I have copyrights on. And if you were to compare the lyrics with these lyrics, you would see that somehow, in advance, this person has access to my music, to my writings. Was it because I released it through the email? What is it? Should I be mad about that? No, I'm not mad about that. What I'm mad about is every time I went to somebody with a product that was very marketable, Ragtop Cadillac alone could have provided me a beautiful life where I can continue to write, get the best of everything for myself, and to continue on. God put music in my heart for my survival in this world. And when you have a song like Ragtop Cadillac, Stephen C. Johnson, who's connected to Willie Nelson and his paparazzi, you got a hit song that can help a lot of people in and out of the music industry. Well, go ahead and go do it. Well, I was taught that what? When you go to talk to a publisher and they're supposedly connected, they'll shop the song around for you, kid. Which is simply nowadays making a phone call and that's it. Now I sing my songs. I wrote them. They're for me to sing. And I don't know how God's going to do it, but it's time that mainstream changes afloat who's afloating. Because Tracilyn's coming in to take a dip for a decade. What do you think of that? If you really knew the people that you were excited about and worshipped about, put them on your bedroom walls, bought their music, their high-ticket prices, and the best they can do is offer a black stage and plain clothes and t-shirt. They don't even dress for an occasion. No offense, anybody. Don't you think they should offer you more when you go to a concert than just looking like a bunch of people who just rode out of bed? In some occasions. I'm just curious. Because I think as somebody who was in the industry for 30 years and they're a major icon star, why don't they show us how to dress nicely? Especially when we're paying high ticket prices. All those finances and the best you can do is grab yourself a whole bunch of t-shirts and jeans. You can do better than that. You can do much better than that. Low budget videos. That's so they can stay connected to the general masses. They try to blend in with everybody. Picture of Trump with son. I believe personally that they stole my identity. Everything about my life story, different things that I've been through, sayings, little sayings I said as a child growing up, or that things that I talked about in my life story. If you watch any of my life story and you hear that within 2012 up until about 2014, maybe even now, between those 2 years, anything that's within my life story or within my songs, there's a good chance that they took what was from me, my identity, little things, little hooks that I do, to create their icon stars. If the icon stars had to do it alone, chances are they would not do it. I have a history of it being so important to me that I did most of what I did by myself. And if I would have known, Joyce Myers, how God really works, Dave Ashcraft, and Joel Osteen, and it would have been focused on the desires of my heart and the fact that Word is God and God is Word, if I would have been taught with intelligence instead of trusting Santa Claus, maybe what happened to me in 2012 wouldn't have happened. And maybe if the music industry wasn't such an illusion as to what building do you go to slam a CD down on the desk and say it's time to man up with an RV or a tour bus? Need lots of musicians. We're playing theaters nationwide. Well, guess what? You're going to find out that more so or not, it's a team of people who are at the top, if that's what you want to call it. They're not at the top. They just have an obsession with being in the public spotlight. And then we as people fall for that, and we think because they're on television, they're on the radio, that they either know the answers, they've been around for a long time, or they're really talented. Listen, they can continue doing, I agree, we should all do what we love to do for the rest of our life. However, mainstream should be dominated by the general public masses. And it is not healthy. And I can discuss it, and psychologists, if they were to be honest, could discuss it with you and tell you all the reasons why maybe it shouldn't even exist. It's scary. Well, when I was done with that, I fell flat on my face. Let your love flood through my soul. And I heard, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. Okay? In other words, it's time to unplug. So they were going through a season, Stephen C. Johnson, and these people, I guess they were trying to build me up, but they were trying to make me go back to being very plain, to living life as a boy. Basically what I was doing before I went to LCBC. They wanted me to play bar rooms with my acoustic guitar and go back to living life as a man. There is no going back. I'm Tracilyn. It's really who I am. When you find yourself, you don't start running back to end. There's nothing to go back to. I was bedridden for 6 weeks, trying to get me to take everything down offline. They were trying to get me to kill myself. They were literally trying to get me to kill myself. I was in a mental institution. I explained to them that they get into our thoughts. They can't, let me tell you something. They cannot control you with the mind unless you're on autopilot. Did you ever think that maybe Satan and God is word? And it's words that are for the dominant, who we are in here. The center core of who we are. All words that are in favor of that is of God. God is a God of life, not death. And Satan is for death. Okay? So therefore, words can be, the same word to you might mean life. But the same word that was used for you for life, for somebody else may mean what? Death. In other words, did you ever notice that some people can eat foods, certain foods, and they don't gain any weight, they don't get sick or have hives or anything, or certain medications will give you hives, other ones won't? And then another person will take it. Maybe you get hives from medication, but another person takes it and they say it really helped me. It's the same thing with words. With that being said, they try to control your thought process and try to control you, but if your mind strength is there, and that's why it is important to have Holy Scripture in your life, the enemy, if you will never defeat you. And that's why when biblical teachings aren't being taught right, somebody like myself who went my whole life thinking, who is Jesus? Who is God? What is God? And how could they love me? Because everybody tells me, everybody, the masses who are Christians tell me that God does not approve of me, doesn't approve of my long hair, doesn't approve of me, period. Well, I have learned that God is for me. God lives in me. And if you look at the signs in my videos and my ice cream art and all that other stuff is signs that God gives me to make it very clear to me. I'm with you all the time, and I'll show you signs to let you know that I exist. And once you know that God is Word and Word is God, you'll start realizing how we're all connected. It's like a computer network. Our brains are like a computer. It's like we're on a computer network. And therefore, God can use anybody. Does use all of us. And you can be having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden you're like, there was a hidden message in that conversation, but there could be 5 people listening and they didn't get the message. It was meant for you personally. But you got to be careful. Your awareness to it can be absolutely amazing. You will find out, because I learned this working at Walmart years ago. It's like there's one conversation that starts from the day that I start, from the time that I start until I clock out. It's one conversation the whole time. How did that happen? God. You want to witness the coolest thing? Be aware. When you step up to a cash register job at like Walmart or a retail store, pay attention to the conversations you're having throughout the day. It'll feel like somebody's doing a brain warp on you. That's God. God leads us. Because I was a student of Joyce Meyer's, I took a job at Walmart for a year, and I snapped. And with Joel Osteen and stuff, I burned out my imagination, my brain. Believing, convinced of a lot of things. And then I had a brain freeze up when these people played a mind trick on me and put a dream in my head. They did it through some kind of technology or something. And I ended up going to Las Vegas because I knew that it's now or never. I gotta try this out. And then I almost lost my life on the Cosmopolitan Bridge. That's my testimony. I wonder if you talk to Joe Osteen and I were to be completely honest with my life story, how he really feels. Because if what he says is really true, then wouldn't there be more people living a victorious life with smiles on their faces? Why are their churches growing? Because if you really get the message, and if you really relate it to Jesus, you'll find out that Jesus spoke and said, if you believe, go. Why are their churches growing? It may be wonderful to be a part of a church family, but there might be something totally out of alignment and you're kept in mental bondage. Are you networked in, making sure that they have regular finances? Because that's what they want. They want dedicated people who will be regular finance givers. Did you ever hear Joyce tell you that if you want something, give in that area? I learned on the streets that's not true. Give with the right heart. Up here, what will you be willing to give? And know that you will receive all kinds of things in the process of it. But I have learned if you give money to somebody, well, they're just going to run down the street. They might not even say thank you. Now, where's the money coming at, Joyce? Let's go stand downtown and let's just hand somebody $5 and see how long it takes for $5 to come back to us. $20 years later, is any money ever going to come back? Well, then you didn't do it with the right heart. Is that it? There's always a reason why not to. However you look at it, they're going to shame and blame you for not having the right heart, or maybe that's what God's trying to teach you something. No, maybe intelligence is trying to tell you something. Give freely what's in your heart of your brain. If it's song, if it's love, if it's a smile, and just watch God in many different ways come back to you beautifully. But let me tell you something. I gave, and I didn't just give to churches. I didn't just give what it was. I already knew. Don't fall into commitment with that stuff. They just want a reliant. They want They calculate their numbers on a monthly or yearly basis, and they have their own personal goals for their ministry, and they need people who are committed and dedicated to give an X amount of money so they know. Well, at least we got a heads up here. Think about it. Why would you? That's freedom. That's a form of freedom. Many people who are intelligent would call that freedom units. It's not just money. Money doesn't even exist. It's freedom. It's a form of freedom. So when people say, be careful of falling in love with money, it's the root of all evil. That's because we're lost when we don't really get what the value of a dollar is. It's freedom. It's a form of freedom. What you want more than anything in the world is to be free. That's what we all want. That's what's desired, so we can be ourselves. We don't want to hurt other people in the process of it by nature. We want to live and see other people living their life and maximizing their, it gets you excited. That's the fruit of who you are, the spirit, a good spirit, a healthy spirit wants to see other people maximizing their life journey. They don't want to hold them in commitment into bondage. I was bedridden for 6 weeks they were trying to get me to take down everything. At some point, they had me look out my bedroom window, and there was a truck on the rear bumper plate that was basically shining bright and towards my apartment. They were trying to scare the crap out of me. At one point, I parked my Cavalier on the other side of the apartment building I live in, and somebody eventually came up and knocked, and this was a few hours later. Somebody popped the trunk in my car and unlocked my doors. Which means through our computer technology that somebody has access to being able to do stuff like that. Everything's electronic now. They were trying to scare me into the point that I take down everything from the internet and basically that I go kill myself. For the first time in my life, I've come to the point that I am not suicidal. I never was. This was people trying to kill me. Not through mind control, through thought control. They try to control your thoughts. And it's funny to them. It's funny to Steven Johnson. He laughed when he told me that they usually just kill themselves. I don't find that funny at all. I'm for life. I believe in life. I think we should all be living a beautiful life. In fact, I know we could if we were taught properly. The potential is there, and it's not as hard as many people think. They told me when I was on the streets in Dayton, Ohio, we only help people who help theirself. In Yellow Springs, they told me, welcome to the family. Some girl said that. In other words, they send their little messengers every time. Just go do it. Have a cause. My cause was I wanted to help the transsexual community at large. Okay? And when I started doing this in 2012, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that Miley Cyrus was starting some kind of, or it was something for the housing for the transsexuals, for young transsexuals or whatever, for women in New York. Billy Ray Cyrus, and I would have to say that most likely his interest for his daughter is he's willing to take inspiration from anyone they can, especially since there's an LGBT rising up. If you really knew this, there's LGBT are rising up. They're tired of being oppressed. And when artists such as myself come along and we're struggling, okay, know that these people in the industry, I'm not saying any specific names, but I've said many names. How are they being there as long as they are? Are they more talented? Are they better looking? Do they have better ideas? Everything that I desired to do and wanted to do and I was talking about to others, all of a sudden started coming out in what we call icons. How do you think these icon stars, superstars, form their career? They take other people's ideas. And they'll go to extent of invading your privacy of your home, putting a chip in your acoustic guitar. Whatever they can do getting into your email, don't doubt that Facebook, Gmail, and all of that stuff, Google, everything's connected into their family, and they would take from anybody that they feel doesn't stand much of a chance and has a lot to offer. But if they did things on the legit, then somebody would have a beautiful life. They don't care about that. They want to make their superstars who they want them to be, and it's so that they have somebody to stand in front and program the general masses. More so or not. And the reason I say that with Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift and stuff like that is because I used to talk a lot about doing shows, a lot of shows, in costumes and stuff, and it's very relevant, and I didn't have anything but what I had. And while I was getting out in my struggles and stuff, next thing you know, all of a sudden, I never seen it or heard it before, maybe it was there, you tell me. Since 2012 or prior to that, prior to 2012, was Taylor Swift doing a lot of costumes? Was there a lot of big band music in the music industry before 2012 besides Brian Setzler and stuff like that? Was there a lot of big band music? Because I'll tell you right now, that was my biggest thing. I wanted to do big band, real musicians, showgirls, all of that. And I talked about it in the privacy of my home mostly. I talked about very little with Steven. I was a huge fan of the 50s. I still am. I used to joke about Brian being one of the last 50s people that have made it in the commercial industry still around besides The Killer. You know, and next thing you know, when I'm in Vegas, I see Miley Cyrus dancing around in a diaper. And now she's doing a 50s video and all this other stuff. I'm not saying that other people can't like these things and they want to do it. The bottom line is, if you were to listen to my life story and you were to listen to my videos since 2012, notice if it's before 2012, then it may have clearance to be okay. But know that they make all the rules, all the laws in the industry to protect the people in mainstream industry. That's why all these laws are being made to oppress everybody else. And meanwhile, you're kicking, screaming, and fighting to try to stay alive, and they're raping the crap out of people in other ways. Taking any ideas, if it's their songs and stuff, this is how they stay where they are. And then you go out and you pay high ticket prices for these people. If you really knew the kind of people that a lot of people were, there's a good chance that you would not be interested in them at all. Something smells fishy to me when you can easily see, even on YouTube, that there are a lot of people with talent, and there's only a few handfuls of people that are in mainstream. Why is that? Think about it for a little bit. And how would you feel if somebody that was doing whatever it is that you do was taking your creative insight? Don't be so surprised if a lot of these corporations don't invade the privacy of all of us. Whether it's home recipes when you're cooking, if it's a little invention project you're working on, and they run away with these ideas for themselves, and all they need is an idea and away they go. Now imagine somebody who's been having their butt kicked, going through all kinds of trials, and it's unbelievable what's been happening to me. If any one of those people, Bret Michaels, I heard he had a recording studio, and I was invited to go meet him by people that were fans of him and fans of mine. This was back before I became homeless, back before I ended up having to be a prostitute according to the law standards, before I went through all this police brutality. I had a boxer dog, by the way, Riggs. I was well known. Do I want that life back? Hell no. I have other visions that God has given me right here. But nevertheless, I heard that he had a recording studio, I guess in Arizona or something like that. So I went to meet him, and I gave him a CD, and guess what? He said he'll call me sometime. Never did call me. Now here's the thing, check this out. I could give you that CD right now today. I have it. It's not who I really am. the songs, but my presentation was way out. In other words, I became like the masses of us are, which is we form ourselves through observation of other people. We imitate other people. Our rock star heroes. If you have many of them, you're going to break down the ingredients to who you are. It'll become very clear. Well, nevertheless, I've reached out to a lot of people, publishers, other songwriters down in Nashville when I was there. I know that I have something to offer. And I've always wondered, like, why is it that I'm extremely talented and I got great songs, I'm very good looking, but it's a no-go? Well, in my opinion, if he really did have a record company, he would be a fool to not call me up within a week and say, welcome aboard. You got some ass-kicking songs. How many more do you got? But he never did. And here's what I have to say about that. Messages have been coming back to me. And I can tell you that it had hurt me a great deal with a lot of the things that I've heard. When people in general know that you are a hit song writer, you just give birth to them. It's in you. You just channel songs through you. To me, that's of God. That's the way the brain works. Okay? Then you're a hell of a resource to have. Just know that. What am I saying by that? What I just said. I've heard many stories by people who were in national touring acts, and they had a lot of people fuck with them, but they never told me how exactly. I've learned how. And if you really knew the truth, you would not support a lot of the people that you do. Because the same people that were on my bedroom walls when I was a kid growing up, they're still out there. Why? It's over 30 years later. Why? What makes them so special? Or they're not special. They stay connected together. They're family. And they have technology or the ability. A lot of what we don't, maybe it's because the food that we eat. Maybe it's because our focus has been totally torn out and we've been torn away from our true selves. Maybe. But did you ever notice? Why would we, at the age of 45, want to pay people to hear songs that we heard when we were 15? Do we sense any kind of danger in that? I'm just curious. Because I used to wonder that too psychologically. Like, why would I go see these bands? I really want to hear new stuff. I got to be honest, I do. To see if they're still up to snuff. I want to see if they're up to snuff. And then I would kind of like, okay, so they play a lot of their older stuff. Okay, that's what people want. That's what the masses want. Think about that. Do you really, really want to be listening to the same songs you did when you were a teenager today? Or do you want great songs by recording artists today that maybe you never heard? But there's a whole lot of something in the way. They only help people who help themselves, and they do it by trying to revert you back to wherever you came from in hopes of demising you to nothing. Did you ever hear of the story of, like, some of the other blues songwriters and stuff that are out there had some kind of mental problem? Did you ever stop and think maybe because somebody was really playing with their minds and they would try to talk to other people and nobody would hear it? Do you realize that how much problem that the father, what they claim is the father of rock and roll, Arthur, with That's All Right Mama? Why would Elvis Enterprise, who made a fortune, by the way, by the taxpayers of America and abroad, why would they screw somebody who wrote one of the biggest hits by Elvis? Why wouldn't they be very kind to him? Anything he needs. What do you need, sweetheart? Well, some people want everything and want you to have nothing else. I'd like to find out that Elvis Enterprise took anything of mine, like Ragtop Cadillac, because I would be somebody who would legally put them into their place. By God's law. Okay, like little kids, I was told they're like a bunch of little kids and when I was in Fountain Square, and to always stay down here, Tracilyn. They are very bad. In other words, they starts to get pretty all kinds of things as you climb the corporate ladder in the music and entertainment industry. There's a lot of jealousness and bitterness and egos. You know, I'm the superstar here. Well, the sad thing is I already gave that up years ago. And I came out here to Ohio because I had nowhere else to go, and that's a long story, and I was listening to Joyce Myers. So I want to be careful how I say this. But the bottom line is, meaning it was in me. When I was on the bridge and I almost died that day, I really, really believed that God was calling me into a rock and roll ministry, not to be a superstar. And then I got led into being taken advantage of. And I'm not the kind of person that's just going to sit back and let that happen. He mentioned about wanting to place their hands on me several times at some kind of spiritual gathering, I guess to take an oath or something like that. You know, the bottom line is any sign of intelligence will tell you the family is holding together with fine threads. Because even getting about Holy Scripture and the importance of it, if somebody says God's not allowed, does the president actually say today, does Donald Trump actually say, do you really believe that Donald Trump is a president and has any say in anything? I mean, I'm just curious, do you? Does he have the final say in anything in this country? I don't know if he does or not. But what do you think? What is running this country? It might be scary if you start thinking about the details and possibilities. One day I was standing at the window in Huber Heights, where I have my one video, Return to Sender. I was sitting there on the edge of my bed, and I was praying because I read in these books and stuff that we are much more with a little tiny, like if you get into the science of it, little particle type things. There's all these little life forms. And as the body begins to transitions and all these little things, they live. They just live. They live, maybe for eternity or whatever. But the bottom line is they seek other life forms to be a part of. I did a ritual over at Johnny Cash's grave in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And I witnessed some pretty incredible stuff in the process of doing it. With that being said, I sat at my window and I stared outside at night one night. And I said, God, draw to me and bring to me all the elements that made Elvis Presley who he was. Well, it was shortly after that I got to meet Elvis Jr. Supposedly, he is the one and only son to Elvis Presley. I don't know if that's true or not. It may be, it might not be. Well, I'm here to tell you that there could be a chance that God brought him to me through words. And then again, because I had spiritual things, what I call spiritual things occur, then again, maybe somebody was listening to me and drew him into my life to play with me, and I'll tell you why in a bit. When I got to meet with him over at Ruby Tuesdays, he told me that he always wanted to have a kid. I had an idea that he was talking from Steven Johnson's perspective. They like to have little kids, so to speak, to kind of parent around, boss around, is what I'm learning. He mentioned to me about a transsexual female that was in the movie 007, only she was not outed until after the movie. Well, I'll tell you what, the entertainment industry does a lot of bizarre stuff. And they'll have somebody do a whole movie, put it out there to the masses, knowing that she's a transsexual, and then they leak it because they like to stir up the masses' awareness of things. You know? Don't be surprised if, hell, even the president's wife is a transsexual. How do we know? Who knows? It could be. I mean, they toy around with stuff like that when Obama was in about whether or not his wife was or was not a transsexual. I mean, who knows? What's the big deal? What is the big deal? Transsexual, not transsexual? In some countries it's favored and it's okay. In other countries it's not, you know? I think there's no other choice. We're on our way to becoming. I looked up on the internet and I realized that years ago, remember I say in my videos that about 25, 30 years prior to me starting to come out, my doctor out of Philadelphia, who was a transsexual female, told me that a lot of transsexual females, such people like myself and her, were locked up in mental institutions. About 25 years ago, they were being, even prior to that, they were being locked up as being mentally disturbed and crazy. Now all of a sudden we're set free. So about 25, 30 years ago, we were in mental institutions declared crazy, and now, for the most part, we're starting to become accepted. Maybe that's why we were crazy, is because we were taught the way we should live our life, and some of us cannot conform to that. Things to be aware of. So I looked up into mental, on what they used to do is to people who were mental patients, they claimed that celebrities were going to marry them someday. Well, Elvis Jr., while at Ruby Tuesdays, he told me someday he was going to marry me. What I've learned about when they do this mind thing is they like to set people up. They like to match with people like myself, to use as a resource, but the main thing is to destroy my life. So Steven, in my opinion, sits by a computer all day long, invading my privacy, getting into my thoughts, and trying to wreck my life. They use me as a resource, and that's all they want. And the rest of the part is to have fun by putting me out there, whether on YouTube or if it be going any other means, to try to wreck my life and make a circus act out of just the human race. So, maybe Junior wasn't referring to Elvis Jr. and me marrying each other. I believe that it may be possible that he was talking from a standpoint of Stephen C. Johnson. Marrying me this way, meaning he's connected to my mind and he's going to try to continuously oppress me and mess my life up. Try to wreck my relationships, etc., etc. Be aware that this stuff is really true. They were asking me if I'd rather go to prison or if I would rather go to a mental institution. This way. For what? Well, because they're going to keep trying to torment me and wreck my life. And you could say, well, that's not a big deal. Maybe you're going through it and you aren't aware of it. But rest assured, if you go out in town and you have a guitar and you have songs to sing that are very meaningful and you want to make a difference and change in the world, that's the way you feel spiritually led, know that they start showing up. You got songs with purpose for a reason behind it. Do you want to save the whales? Save the dolphins? Write songs about it and go stand downtown and start telling everybody what you're up to, all your plans. And all of a sudden, people will start just showing up to you. In other words, we've been watched our whole life. There's people always honing in to us. So celebrities used to actually tell these people that they were going to marry them someday, and then it does all kinds of things to your head, right? Well, I already knew, what a joke. Why would I marry somebody like Elvis Jr. when I'm going to get to the point? I'll tell you why. He also mentioned about leaving God out of it, which made me realize only recently that he lacked intelligence like I lacked intelligence for years, like many of us. You can't leave God out of anything. It's impossible. If God gets taken out of anything, it's dead. It doesn't exist. God is Word and Word is God. God is of life. If you take life out of anything, it's dead. Right? That's what we call it. It's lifeless. He said it was best to do that. Then he asked me if I was ready to see the magic. And he mentioned about that it was fun to watch. You know, people like myself. So in other words, these people were just expecting me to go do everything that I used to do it as me. They didn't want me to tell anybody I was a transsexual. Why are you telling people you're a transsexual? Why are you telling people you're a transsexual? Because that's what God laid on my heart is my calling in life. Is my desire. I care about the transsexual female community. Above all. It's not that I don't care about other people, I do. But I went through so much shit, and there's a lot of things that need to happen in this country, now. It's important that now it happens. Just like with prostitution, it's time that we redefine what prostitute means, and that we give people the right to exchange freely what they desire, whether it's sex and intimacy for money or whatever. I can't believe that people just let this stupid law exist. If somebody's being forced to do something, well then arrest them. Get what I'm saying? If you agree to freely exchange intimacy, money is a form of freedom. For anything. If I fuck somebody in the ass or receive a fuck in the ass, for a car, for a house, what business is it of the police? What does it matter to the president? It doesn't matter. Now, if I'm being forced to do something, then that's different. Or if I'm forcing somebody else to do it, then arrest them, whoever's doing the forcing. If I want to walk up to somebody right now and they're talking to me and they say, you know what, you're good looking. Would you like to have sex? Why can't I turn around and say, you give me $500 right now, we'll have sex? Well, you're arrested. Why? Because I was honest? More likely, if the guy gave me $500, I'd probably have sex with him. Well, that's illegal. It's prostitution. No, it's not. My heart says if the guy would give me $500, there's a good chance that I would safely have sex with him. Well, what if he wanted to have unsafe sex with you? Well, now the price may go up, sweetheart. Why? Because it's in alignment with my heart if I'm going to take a risk, whether it's money or life or something. Maybe it's a getaway in the yacht. Why should it be a cop pull up now and say we're going to arrest you? Why? Because you agreed to do something for something? Do you know how ridiculous that is? Ask the president that. Ask your local governor and mayor that. It's fucking ridiculous. God's referring to anytime you go against your heart and you do things to get something, if it's not in my heart, and it's not in my heart right now, but it could be tomorrow. It's not in my heart right now. If somebody came up to me and said, hey, would you have sex with me for a few $100 for this brand new car? Would you do it? Maybe it depends on the person. Well, my heart says stay away from that. Well, there you go. Now, if I did it just to get the car, but I didn't want to sleep with the guy or girl, then I'd be prostituting. And that's illegal according to God's word. But if it's in my heart and maybe I find a person really attractive and they say, I know you have a need. Would you have sex with me for that? Well, why can't I say yes? And why can't I post my ass online and put a phone number and say, call me today? I'll make it worth your while if you make it worth mine. Do I want to do that? No. Because you know why? Music entertainment, son of a bitches. Because I have something to exchange for a beautiful life. My music. And I'm going to receive it. I am not a prostitute. And I am not going to be an adult entertainer. I believe in being with someone very special. God has laid it on my heart, if I'm completely honest with myself, I want to be with somebody very special. I'll serve his desires. However, I don't want to be with somebody that can't meet me on the other end with that. My desires are very, very important. To me, they're priority. And if I'm with the right person who can fulfill my heart's desires in our relationship, I hope that I'm compatible. And compatibility, well, guess what? Nobody has to worry about anything. We'd have a beautiful life together. Because I have not been taught that importance in school that I'm aware of. I have not really learned that watching Joel Osteen or Joyce Myers, the importance of compatibilities. One of the reasons why a lot of us in America don't get along with each other is because we don't have enough in common. Maybe one person wants to watch the Jerry Springer show and another one wants to watch the Oprah show. And therefore they fight or they get their own televisions. I would beg you, please turn the television off. Live whatever you want. And am I about taking life away? If you want to fish, fish. If you want to walk, walk. If you want to run, run. If you believe that, taking a deer's life or, going hunting. If you think taking another life to feed your family is the way to go, then go deer hunting with people that you love. Hunt with them. I myself really strive to want to be a vegan. Vegetarian's good. But I eat meat sometimes. But I know it's because of circumstances now, and I know it's because of the way I was born and taught. Because meat, for me, makes me feel horrible when I eat it. I don't believe that anything should have to lose a life so I can live. I believe we need natural resources of energy, the purest, the most natural, chemical-free, the best of everything, purest of water. No chemicals, no chlorine. And it breaks my heart because in accordance with God's word, everything on this planet belongs to God. Yes, 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 yes. It was given to Satan for a term. But I guarantee you it did not come out with what? It's for God's children. And here's the thing. There is another means. We've been tricked into being servants. Some would say slaves. When we get our paycheck at the end of the week or a gross year at the end of the year, guess what? That's your freedom. Are you going to let anybody take it away from you? Because once you have that, within reason, right, you can freely get anything you want. Go to the grocery store and eat the food you want. You can buy the cars you want, the home you want, the land you want. We need to start being a lot more careful on all the laws that are being passed and when taxes are being raised. Why is it that Canada can have health insurance for all of its people, but America still in 2017? Doesn't anybody care? Think of how many people are losing their lives every day. Why do the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer? Because they're being led that way. Don't let yourself be led into poverty. I did part of that with as much stress of the people behind the system pushing the system that is a lot of times against its people. Why are we fighting for same-sex marriage? It's our country. If we want to get married to the same sex, so what? Yeah, now they gave it to us. Well, why did we have to fight for it? I'm 45 years old. That law only was passed just within the last couple years. What's wrong with the people behind the system? What's wrong with our government? If there's a problem, why should we have to keep fighting for stuff? How about fighting and arguing with your local politician about why grocery stores are stocked with all this chemically induced food? And by the way, if we get anything organic, why should we have to pay such high, unrealistic prices? Why shouldn't the natural food sources be the most affordable, considering it's our God-given right to eat and drink off the land? But people forget about it. Who owns the land? Do you think the government does? Who do you think owns it? God owns it. And once you acknowledge this land is made for you and me, it's made for you and me to live off of. And whoever formed these corporate giants, if that's what you want to say, are the ones who are saying what we can do and what we can't. If you knew my life story and you heard my music and you saw my live performances, in a worldly sense, you would acknowledge that I am worthy myself of having a chunk of land that's mine, that I have say of what happens on my land, and that I have the ability to build myself a beautiful home, live in a nice location and have nice things in my life and do nice things for other people as well. Now, who are these assholes who are saying that we can't have this? And by the way, who are the assholes that keep taxing us and penalizing us for everything? In other words, when God says give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, what do you think that entailed? Nothing on this land belongs to anybody. It's for everybody. It's all God's. And God gave everything to his one and only Son, Jesus Christ. And whoever believeth in Jesus Christ, equally, not partially, not a percentage of it, was equally given. But God wants us to live on the land peacefully, right? Well, look it up. Live and let live. Love one another. Love thy neighbor. It's all about love. Why would you deny believing in something that's all about love, all about freedom? Why do you think they want to take God out of school? Who really wants to take God out of school when God's for life? If you take God out of school in an illusion, what they're not telling you is what the information we're giving you is God of your life. And if you actually fall into agreement with the details of it, chances are you're going to be living in complete opposition of who you are, at least a majority of it. You're going to be brainwashed to be a very obedient servant, not free, like a bird, like a horse running through a field, with a smile on its face. Who says what a boy should look like and what a girl should look like? Who says who you should have sex with? And what in the world gives the government the right to say, we're cutting back food cards, we're cutting back welfare? Let me tell you something. Who's overseeing these judgment calls that are being made? Because, by the way, though my main passion is music, and that's the desire of my heart that God has made it very clear, music ministry. Maybe I should check in over these people's shoulders once in a while or fly into D.C. and make sure they're really working and they're not just stage presenters for the general public to make everybody think something's going on in the White House. Maybe it's a stage prop. What really goes on in the White House? Have you been there today? Is it a busy headquarters? Why can't Americans get on the other side of the fence and see the president actually working? Maybe we should have cameras on him at all times. We want to know the details. By law, the citizens say we have to be able to log on to the D.C. White House and we have to be able to observe what's going on we own it. Do you know that you own the White House? If you're an American, you own the White House. They don't own you. You own the White House. All those political buildings downtown, we own them. They're ours. Then you should never be homeless. If you're homeless right now, it's only the thought you're homeless. Go down to your political building and say, guess what? Last time I checked, this building belongs to me. It belongs to America. I need a place to sleep tonight. I was homeless. It's a very painful place to be. I'm sorry you are. Why isn't our tax-paying fundage going into doing beautiful things for the people in America who need it? Maybe we need more people who are youthful and have gone through some shit. And it's time to weed out the people who have been around for quite some time. No disrespect. But if you go to any successful mega church, more than likely they're going to have people that are closer to the youthful generation as guiders. And the people who've been in it for a while are like elders. They supervise over everything to kind of help out. Maybe the people who've been in political fields as long as they have you ever thought that maybe they should be doing it as volunteer work because they love their country and their people instead of getting paid a salary? Why should they get a salary? Why don't they get a food card with limited resources? Why don't we budget what cars they drive? They have to fuel up at they need to have an account with the cheapest fuel station. We can get into the details of it. The homes that they live in and stuff, unless it's purchased with their own money somehow. I love you guys. Last but not least, as we're moving on here, and by the way, I love our government. And that's how you love them. You start raising an eyebrow. I can't do it like The Rock. You start raising an eyebrow and say, hey, Tracilyn does care about all people because God loves the government. God loves everybody. I love everyone too. I don't necessarily like all the actions that are being performed within them. And I have seen so many needs and I shook my head for years. Why are these things existent? It's 2017. Why doesn't the government alone just get paid minimum wage to do their position? We pay for all the resources. We're paid for the car. We're paid for the fuel. We'll make sure you have food and a safe place to stay. It might not be the best. Why do you need the best? And we don't. Did you ever think of that, Mr. or Mrs. Politician? Is your children going to run next? Is your child going to run next? Who's going to be president next? Is it going to be someone's son? Why won't somebody come out of the American people themselves and stand up and say, I'm going to be president? And there's going to be a lot of changes made. And by the way, they can seek out Tracilyn. I have a lot of valuable opinions on what would be beneficial to us as a whole, instead of just a small percentage of people in America and abroad. I'm not saying it to be smart. I'm saying it because I'm intelligent. So we talked about the girl who was trans in the 007 movie. Basically, I was going to be his girl, meaning probably Steven. They wanted me to not talk about me being a transsexual. So what? I want to do what I want to do. They want to force me to do whatever they want me to do. Steven didn't want me to tell anybody I was a transsexual female. Let them guess it. Let them figure it out. It's not funny. I'll tell who I want to tell. I'll promote myself as that. It's important to me. God laid it on my heart. I don't need to explain it. So I told you about how celebrities would tell people that, and that was people who usually ended up in a mental institution. They would have stories. Look at the history charts in mental institutions 25, 30 years ago. A lot of people who were in there, who were like me, swore up and down that a celebrity told them they were going to marry them someday. That's what these people do. Elvis Jr. isn't going to marry me, and I'm not going to marry him. Number one, I wouldn't marry anybody that's not 100% in on me and music as a ministry. He said about leaving God out of it. You don't say that to somebody who's struggling to stay firm in their belief that God is real, just don't know what it is. I got to change the battery. All right, here we go. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, I hope this is still working. If it's not, we're check in. So anyway, check it out. Go look in the history of the mental hospitals and find out if that's not documented in their notes. Okay? Patient keeps mentioning that some celebrity was going to marry them. Don't think that these celebrities are all nice. Some of them are probably the meanest son of a guns you'll ever meet in this world, that you'll never meet. Who knows what they do to people? Mentally torture them, physically torture them? Why? Maybe some of them are psychopaths. Maybe. I don't know for sure. Okay, so he said about leaving God out. Obviously, that's not intelligent according to Tracilyn and my belief system. And he mentioned about getting ready to see the magic because I have a childlike spirit. And gosh darn it, the Christian faith taught me to come to God with a childlike spirit. But let me tell you, when you come to this world with a childlike spirit, you will be destroyed. Because they think because you're what they call worldly age, 45, then and we're not, by the way, they will insist that you should be able to take care of yourself or there's something wrong with you. So the Christians made me a childlike spirit, LCBC, and everybody else involved in it in Christianity. And now all of a sudden I can't take care of myself. If they're going to make you come to Christ or to God like a childlike spirit, they want to tell you that you're God's problem. You're not God's problem. You're now their problem. They should be held accountable for their psychological damage that they do to humanity. Hold them accountable. Hold Dave Ashcraft accountable and all the church leaders. Joe Osteen, you are being held accountable for what happened. Joyce Myers, you are being held accountable for all the people you brainwash into believing. How many people died watching your program? How many people were raped? How many people got kidnapped and taken overseas? Mutilated, put into slavery? Do you care? Joyce Myers, do you care? Dave Ashcraft, do you fucking care? Victoria, do you care what your husband did and is doing? The responsibility he has? How do you guys look in the mirror at nighttime? Before you go to bed? Do you care? I care. I had a lot of rock star dreams, and I'm going to talk about that another time because it's getting dark out. One of them was John Bon Jovi, who I ended up meeting in Cincinnati, coming to me in dreams. One of them I posted online, if Facebook would reveal it, that John came to me when I was staying at Stevens the second time, and he walked me over to a pool of piranhas that were not hungry, they were just kind of lying dormant, and he told me, see, they don't bite when they're not hungry. I had a lot of other dreams, and one of them entailed John, as I call him, John Bon Jovi, I call him John, okay? Of him on the phone, and in that conversation, he was letting his wife know that he was gay. I don't know if he is or not. I heard somewhere through somebody told me that he was gay. So what? Who cares if he is or not? But if he is, he sure hell didn't do the whole gay community a favor by hiding it. Because anytime that you hide anything, sooner or later it's going to come to light. Maybe not the way you like it, but it's going to come to light. It's always best to be yourself. Freddie Mercury was gay and look at him. Outstanding. Imagine how much strength that took. Everybody, all the other gay people in the entertainment industry are hiding who they are. He stands up on stage very proudly, waving a flag. See, I had a problem with a lot of that too because we all went through a lot of pain and suffering, trying to hide our nature. There is no such thing as gay. You like what you like. If you like getting fucked in the ass or you like sucking dick, who cares? It doesn't mean we're gay. It's just what we like. So move on with your life. You want to be with a partner? I would like to be with a masculine energy source if it's possible. So what? It's nobody else's business. And nowadays, most people probably wouldn't even care. They would say, oh, that's so nice because they saw on television the importance that it is to accept. Because people don't believe that they should accept anything unless they see it on television. Myself used to be included in that until God spoke to my heart and I realized really quickly, don't believe everything you hear on television. It's used for both good and not so good. And maybe a lot of times they're taking a lot of stuff, storylines, making movies, television shows, creating personalities by people in their family because they found somebody who's struggling and really has something to say in the 40 years they've been alive. I have more dreams with John in it. John Bon Jovi used to come to me a lot in a dream, just like Elvis Presley. I don't want to talk about that right now. We're going to take off with Rockstar Dreams. It's getting dark. I want to try to get home. I also came to me in a dream about going on tour with Poison. And let me tell you something. I used to love Poison. But if Poison were to ask me to go on tour with them, according to this dream, I would say fuck you to Brett. And the truth of the matter is, because I sat there between Brett's leg at a time that I really needed somebody in the music industry to hear me. But they're so swamped with people who want to make it in the industry that they brush people like me off. If you had a record company and you had somebody like me walk up, let me tell you something. If you knew the story of me and the details, and you really had a record company and you were into promoting people, you would be stupid for not calling me. So I never want to see his face. Now here's the thing. So my problem is I don't have a problem with him directly. I seen he has a boxer now. At least he did a couple years ago. My problem's not with him. I reached out to a lot of people in the music industry. Going to school is the long route around to get from point A to point B. The bottom line is you got the talent, and we're going to get more into that this year coming up. I'm going to share with you why I believe a lot of things when it comes into not doing life right. Forget about the selfishness and greed that's within the industry, not to mention the ego issues. Let me tell you something. Anybody who's signed right now and been for 30 years, number one, it's your time to step down. Stop being such a pig about it. Most of you are really not all that talented anyway if you had to do it alone, all by yourself for yourself. I'm going to have personal messages for you because I actually witnessed celebrities coming to me on the streets. I heard their songs and seen their videos, and I know that somehow, directly or indirectly, things were getting from me and they were using my ideas that I was talking about in the privacy of my home, directly or indirectly. And we can lay down songs, by the way. All of us can lay down songs, and you will see that my songs were probably most likely since 2010 written first. Is that a coincidence? I don't believe it is. I believe that people within the industry, directly or indirectly, have access to invading the privacy of others, especially when they know they're extremely talented and they hope their brains are all messed up. Because when that's the case, they'll just take all the songs and whatever they want from the person and laugh about it to each other as the person transitions on. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay. And now it's time for me to go to bed. It's getting late. I want to go back home to my studio, play some guitar. I feel really good that I got a lot of this out. I have probably 2 more subjects to talk about, and this is done. I don't want to do it anymore. These guys have taken advantage of my circumstances. I want to ask the Christian leadership of this country what they think about that. Let's ask our government what they think of it. How do you feel when somebody like myself has songs like I do, a heart like I do, love for life like I do? How do you feel about mainstream not making any room for Tracilyn? Do you care about it? I mean, especially during this time. Don't you think that it would be a great importance to support somebody like me in those endeavors, considering I lived life, an American life, for almost 45 years now? I'm a transsexual female. I have quite a story, not to mention the songs I gave birth to, and I'm extremely talented. Or do you think I should just be left to rot away, Mr. and Mrs. Government? What do you think about mainstream maybe having technology to invade the privacy of other people? Well, I was thinking about this the other day. Can you imagine why Dayton, Ohio used to have the most worldwide patents at some given point? Do you think these people were like schizophrenic because they knew that people had technology and were invading their privacy? So they, as soon as they came out with an idea, immediately they tried to patent it? Let me tell you something. If you're a songwriter, you're a writer, copyright your music immediately. Do not hesitate. Make sure you do it on a computer so you have the files, and be aware that there may be potential. If you start hearing your songs on mainstream radio and through iconic stars, there may be a good chance that they found out that you're a very creative songwriter, and the rest of the world may see you as a piece of trash, because that's where I ended up being a believer in Joel Osteen's teachings. He'll say, don't believe in my teachings, believe in God. Well, it's the God he preached about that got me living beside a dumpster by the grace of a real God. I love you guys. Thank you for watching this. Last but not least, we're going to do Rockstar Dreams. I have nothing more to talk about with this. I do not want these people to consume my life. I'm going to start next year with updates and personal messages to our Christian leaders, including the Mother Church in Chicago. You see, because I don't think that anybody takes me serious when I say that God, not man, has a great calling on my life, which is in my heart's desires in my brain, to form a one-of-a-kind rock and roll ministry. The details are starting to subside into the fact of acknowledging that while in this earth, it is my obligation to remain committed. And I have been getting the hell beat out of me. Do you care, Mother Church in Chicago, that I'm a believer in Christ, that I'm a believer in God and Holy Scripture, and that I get the importance of having it in your life? How does it make you feel to know that it took me years of research to finally really get that Holy Scripture is an individual capsule that thaws out our own personal truth and is an instruction form on how for us to live out life on earth? Why should have it taken me years of psychological research, including biblical research, to finally get what it says in Matthew or John, which is what? Word is God and God is Word. Is there not anybody brave enough on the whole podium in the Christian leadership to let us know that our heart's desires holds the truth of our life for life I was broken down from a worldly self. All my strength, my worldly strength, gone. Because I became very childlike, Mother Church in Chicago. I became dependent. And I realized that the rest of the world doesn't give a shit about you. I give a shit about me. And I am going to fulfill my heart's desires to have a rock and roll ministry. Las Vegas style. Children's rock and roll ministry. And I need the best of everything. Vehicles, musicians. I got the songs that will make the whole world sing. I would say 100%, just about, of the industry has been inspired by my music without my approval. You see, they want to do it for God, says Joyce. Then the industry comes by and they take everything from you that they want. And they'll tell you, try to prove it. We know the laws, we make the laws. We take what we want from you, trying to not make it so obvious, and basically leave you rot. Once you're drained, that's it. It's all about them and forget about you. How does that make you feel, Mother Church in Chicago? Did you use any of my life story to reach the masses within the church family? These are things that ponder a brain who's intelligent enough to know the answer. Y-E-S. Now it's my turn. I get the best of everything, okay? I'll be setting foot on an intelligent choice, which is you do everything by yourself for yourself, because the Christian community isn't really about bringing people together. It's about keeping people smoldering with all the wrong relationships. Some people would beg to differ with that, but I know from my own experience, guess what? If it wasn't from the detach and finally making it to a little tiny apartment in concrete, by the way, my sinuses are all fucked up, by a dumpster. Joel Osteen, I get a great view. I'm one of your students. I get the best of everything. I can't wait to share it with the rest of humanity. And I would say, don't be angry, world leaders. Don't be angry with me. I am a child of the Most High God. You're godly people, right? Especially in America, because this country was found on freedom and liberty and God's love for people to be free. But all we've been doing is fighting since we got here. Now, why is that? Why would our leaders of the country keep us fighting? It's 2017. Every American should have health insurance. And by the way, if it's a legal procedure to have performed in America on the human body through a physician, surgical procedure, then insurance should cover it. Doesn't make sense if it's a legal procedure to do. What's the difference between cosmetic and not? A perspective, really. For some people, it's an absolute necessity, and they'll even end up killing themselves or others to receive what should be taken care of. Not me. Look it up on the internet. There's all kinds of bizarre stories. Are we teaching our children in elementary school psychology and the importance thereof for the rest of their life? Are we acknowledging to them that we've been all had? God has never been removed from school. It's impossible. However, using God and leading people into unhealthy life, which means unhealthy relationship with God. See, it's about belief system. That's what this life is about. It's the starting point. Whether you're going to be fulfilled and feel fulfilled, experience more happiness, wealth. Do you ever notice that grumpy old people in the music industry would tell you there's no money to be made? And then they'll go out and play an arena. And what are you paying for ticket prices? There's no money to be made in music. Are you fucking kidding me? Must be a bad business person. You know who you are. There's plenty of money to be made all over the place. It's freedom. And people put a ticket value on it and say this is what the ticket's worth. And if you believe it, you pay for it. Why? Some of these ticket prices are a little bit enormous. Would I do the same? Well, there's a good chance I probably would, but I would want to be the heart that puts on a show that's really, really worth it. And extra perks for the people who are willing to pay the ticket prices. People, we need to start thinking about what it is that we're doing. We're the ones who are feeding the rich. Only we're all rich. Money is an illusion that they have something. And why should we give it to all of them? Did you ever see a rock star's home? I mean, a real icon rock star's home? Now go look at your home. Please don't be upset when I say that. How about if I show you my home? And then I'll take some of their music and lay it down with my music. And let you be the judge, knowing that if their music wasn't on the radio today or being crammed down your throat, that there's a good chance that you would like my music and their music pretty much the same. Be careful what you support. Do you think they really care about you? All right, and last but not least, I think I mentioned this before, but I had a dream with Don Henley in it while I was over here at the studio. They were trying to get into my head to try to make me feel bad, to make me feel low. And Don Henley had asked me while he was sitting at a desk, he handed me lyrics to "You Better Let Somebody Love You." And something was mentioned about whether or not, he said maybe I know somebody who would want to sing it. And he smiled. He was very friendly in my dream, by the way. The Eagles was the first song I heard as a child growing up on my radio in 1972, which was just a couple days after being born. And I knew then that I was very drawn to music. Now, these people aren't obligated to do anything for me, and they're fulfilling their heart's desires. And I can imagine what these people have gone through their whole life, okay? But we're feeding these people their egos. They are fucking nothing without us. Who are the Eagles? A couple guys who got together and wrote some incredible songs and have amazing musicianship. Went on the road touring, right? Maybe a lot of nice things, maybe not so nice things. Hell, they got Joe Walsh, right? Now here's I like Joe Walsh, by the way. But here's the thing, I like the guys as much as you do. I like all the rock stars as much as you do, okay? But who are they without us? We're the ones who bought their posters. We're the ones who bought their music. We're the ones who bought all their tickets. They don't owe us anything. They gave to us. But don't you think there's other people in this lifetime that are worthy of the places that really should be temporary for Americans as we should? If the leadership of this country was ran by intelligence, they would shift things around so that this generation, do you get that since I'm 15, a lot of these bands have been in commercial mainstream? Why? How many bands through the years could have fucking been through that and they'd already be established in their own life? Because it's when you step on the radio or the television for a season of time, a decade, 5 years, whatever. They say it only takes one song. Well, I got many fucking songs. I'm an endless flow. I could have been a hell of a songwriter, had a beautiful life, and many people would have benefited from it. The whole world, the whole country. But you know what you got? You got a bunch of people in Nashville. Listen, you got a bunch of people that check in 9 to 5. Listen to the songs they write. What are they singing about? Are they making fun of sissies? They making fun of transsexuals? Because when I was down in Nashville, and I went down there with a heart, and I really felt that God was calling me down there to unite the best musicians in the whole world. And I need the best of everything. I remember hearing somebody sing about sissies. And I had to learn to have a sense of humor. Because I don't want to hear that after everything I went through. My songs are about life and what I went through. From my perspective. No, they're not country. They're everything I was exposed to my whole life. And I met a really corrupted man down there by the name of Stephen C. Johnson. Outside of that, I had a beautiful time in Nashville. I got to play on the stages of some pretty incredible people who I thought, and now I acknowledge they're a bunch of fucking jackasses, whether directly or indirectly. They steal from people like me. Their creative insight, whether it's directly or indirectly. They have access, whether through Steven or somebody else, who invade your privacy. If you're a hit songwriter, forget about getting any kind of publishing deal. They'll just take the fucking shit from you and kill you, and nobody will care about it because you're an outcast. How does that make you feel? Transsexual sisters. How many transsexuals were killed because of these bastards? Then they get up there and they pretend that they have a caring heart. Do they really care? How many friends do they really have that are transsexual? If they care, why aren't they employing people who are transsexual in their musical business endeavors? Why is that? They don't fucking care. So anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for listening to this. I hope it pisses people off in the industry. If this did, wait till you hear what comes out of my mouth over the next year. You're going to be very disappointed. I don't ever want to see you son of a bitches ever walk up to my face again. When I was down in Fountain Square, John Bon Jovi, don't ever walk up to my face again. John Bon Jovi. Is that your real name? Is it your real name? Or is it possible that you are a coward and you hide behind whatever truth it is? Did you make something up to be successful? Don't ever step in front of my face again. By the way, love the 2013 Gross Tour overall concept. And same for the rest of you guys who wanted to make an ass out of me while I was standing on the street. Hey, Chris Christopherson stopped by, and so did a lot of the other people, some people in country music. All these years, and it makes you wonder, how do these people exist as long as they do in their musical careers when there's all these great songwriters? I'm sure there's a lot of politics involved, a lot of red tape as they call it. And one of them is you gotta watch your mouth, right? Because they're protecting their image. But don't be so sure that God doesn't come into the life and their image dissolves in a worldly sense. Because I witnessed it. It's what happened to me. And then I was taken advantage over. What do you think of that, Joyce Myers? What do you think of these guys in rock and roll using me and humiliating me as a resource? And now all of a sudden these people out of nowhere, listen people, all of a sudden now big band music? Twisted Sister with big band music? Where did that come from? Where did all this stuff come from? Why all of a sudden was there a huge explosion of this stuff? Guns N' Roses back together? Do you realize that I was talking about that in the privacy of my home? Because I knew people were listening to me? And I was telling them the greatest bands of the 80s through the 90s. And that one of the saddest mistakes that were ever done was when Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses split up. Well, now they're back together. And it goes on and on and on. Things I was talking about in the privacy of my home, knowing that I was being listened to. Whether there's a chip in my head, or if they were listening to me through the television, because you hear a lot of that, there could be sources there, or they had some kind of mind control or something. And maybe it's not these specific people like Axl Rose and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. With the exception of crossing paths with these people when I was standing downtown and shit. I know that Stephen C. Johnson and his paparazzi, his family, have access to some kind of privacy invasion devices. I would like to sue the crap out of these people. If there's a lawyer out there that hears this message, please, don't think I'm a psychopath. This is real. And I can show you, I can prove it. I would also like to have my Facebook account looked into to find out if they're actually navigating my Facebook. I should be able to connect with people in the Dayton, Ohio area, but if somebody in Facebook is navigating and playing around with where my videos on the outgoing would most likely be seen, then it's affecting me because a lot of the times I'm getting hits or people wanting to be friends on Facebook, which is used for me to connect with the human race. They're coming from Pennsylvania and all these other places. There's statistics in there. I guarantee you it shows it. Because I was connecting with people in Ohio, and then somebody started tampering with my Facebook, and then it went overseas. Why would it go overseas and all these people just filling up with these names from other countries? And now it's all of a sudden it's down in like DC and Pennsylvania and all that other stuff. I know, I watch this stuff. How did I go from having 25 or 35,000 subscribers on YouTube with a webcam, by the way, to now I'm lucky if I have 55 subscribers? Not to mention I sat there and I watched one of my videos, Time to Pump It, which YouTube has always been harsh to me as a transsexual female. I show myself as a transsexual female. I love exotic clothing. I like children so much, and I present myself careful of that. And these son of a bitches used to flag my freaking videos all the time because they're trying to close down my account. Every time I put something out, I can't put it out. Everything has to be adult. They don't want me exposed to children. I'm one of the fucking goddamn funnest loving people you ever meet. But because I'm a transsexual, I'm a freak. And they also know that the rest of the world would be attracted to me because I am a nice person. And I'm good looking. And I saw my Time to Pump It video, and I sat there and I saw the numbers on the views skyrocket. Like a meter, like a speedometer going super fast. That tells me something's crooked in YouTube. Somebody in YouTube or somebody who has access to my YouTube account is fucking with it. Somebody with my account on Facebook. Somebody has information to my email address. My picture of Elvis Jr. Presley, of me giving him a ragtop Cadillac CD, holding it, he was holding it in a jacket. It has been removed from all my hard drives. It has been removed from my Facebook. These people have access into going into your hard drives. They could wipe it clean if they wanted to. They take shit away from you slowly in hopes that you forget. They delete your fucking past. They don't want me promoting a picture that I have of Bret Michaels and me after a show in Pottsville at the Goodfellas. I used to fucking play there all the time. And I have a picture of me sitting between his legs before I transitioned. And I gave him a CD. And I might have used the wrong words and asked him to help me. I don't know how to talk to people. I did need his help. I needed a lot of people's help because I was doing everything on my own. And it is very challenging, and I was very successful. And I also got tired of doing everything by myself for myself and felt I had something to offer other people. So when that dream came to me, I would tell you straight up, I'd tell Brett to his face, fuck you. Because I realize now in doing my own endeavors that, in my opinion, Brett's not really that talented. And he should have retired from singing years ago. And it hurts to say that, but it's true. From a perspective of somebody who's a serious recording artist and has gone through some shit. They don't need to hear another song about don't need nothing but a good time. What the world needs to hear, what this country needs to hear, is somebody who has something to say about the generation that they have lived in. In my opinion, mainstream should not still have Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Kenny Chesney, and all the other people, in my opinion, very strongly. For I can tell you all kind. I would like to go on a television show and fucking bitch about it and share with the American people my intelligent perspective on why it shouldn't be like that. The health hazards to our mental health. Not to mention there's a lot of other people who actually don't need a whole team of people to keep their life going. And therefore they have proven worthy of a season of life of abundance on planet Earth. Anyway, adios. If you hear this message and you're in mainstream and it pisses you off, I can honestly say that I am sorry. That's not a godly attitude that I should have, but I'll tell you, fuck you. Chances are I will outwrite you. I will outperform you any day. And I never wanted it to be like that because I'm a good-hearted person. I'm humble. But I have been beaten down by the Christian community to basically give my whole fucking life away, Chicago. What do I get? Life eternal? All right, I'm done. Let me know that this message is in peace. There's a lot of truth in it. There is still a lot of upsetment and disappointment in my life because of how things came about. I have been going through some serious shit over the years. And I never ever wanted to use my life to speak into a camera and say anything bad about anybody, considering I really do love people. However, when you're being used and abused, in my opinion, you will snap and you will tell your government what you think about everything. You will tell the entire mainstream and the religious community from a various perspective of what kind of assholes they really are. Okay, does that mean I should be in a mental institution or locked up for my opinion? And the answer is no. I have the obligation and duty of an American citizen to express what I feel about a corporate country that runs things wacky. That's the word. Wacky. This is Tracilyn, also known as VCAT. You can barely see me anymore. I got to go home. By the way, Joyce Myers and Joel Osteen, my belief system in your teachings has led me to an apartment building out of desperation, by the way, that was surrendered to me that has limited parking for the amount of tenants that live in it. How does that make you feel? That alone, I have learned, adds a great deal of stress into a person's life who used to be used to living and coming and going freely. Not since I believed in Ashcraft's idea of fucking God all the way up to Joel Osteen. No, now I have to make sure I get home or I might not have a parking space, okay? That's me believing in Santa Claus instead of intelligence. See, if I would have been a student of intelligence, more than likely the people in mainstream music, they wouldn't have tormented me the way they did, okay? Because they will not go after somebody who's connected with other people and appear to be intelligent by any means. It's only the weak and wounded that they will prey upon. Why is that?